Hey guys, what's up? This is Justin Berry with the Basketball Embassy. I'm here with Coach Gilbert Abraham of Aiken Athletics, and really excited to have him here. He's a big-time player development guy. He's the director of PGC from 2013 until present. He's the skill development director and director of basketball ops with Get Better Academy, and he's the chief consultant and founder of Aiken Athletics. Big really big voice here that we've got for player development. He's currently in the Czech Republic working with some pro clubs and some under 18 clubs. When it comes to developing, this is one of the biggest voices that we have in the entire coaches clinic. Coach, let them know what we're talking about today and what you're going to be going over with your presentation.
Okay. Thank you all for having me on. Big focus for me during this talk is really going to be spot ups and basically teaching players how to play off of the catch, and talking about basically what players can do off of the ball. Because I think basically a lot of what's going on right now in development is players really get consumed with having to pat the ball or having it in their hands all the time. And this is basically what the majority of what I think high-level players are really focusing on, is what they can do when the ball is not in their hands. Okay, so with that, I'll get started. So this basically is the setup of the things we're going to be talking about. I'd like to pretty much lay the groundwork before we get going with the talk, but basically just it'll be phase A, B, and C development. After that, spot up and off-ball skill development musts. Why spend time working on off-ball development, and then talk a little bit about player types with some analytics and data, and then get into 5 levels of scoring, which I talked about on one of the previous talks I've done. Spot up skill development progressions, what are the different things that I'm looking to do or focus on with the players that I work with. Skill development tools with video, and then get into small study games, structured play, and then after that, any questions or discussion we might have. Okay, so this is the first thing right here. Just from a purely skill standpoint, there are only about 3 things that you can train, and that's your craft, your body, and your mind. And as far as skill acquisition goes, if you're trying to acquire a skill, the first stage, which is just you becoming familiar with it, phase A, that I like to call, it's basically like, one-on-one type work. And this usually is the training that you see is somebody's in the gym and they're just becoming familiar with something, or they might be repping it out, but it's 1-on-0, 2-on-0, 3-on-0, no defense, no real processing is involved as far as like what's actually happening in the game. That's the first stage. The associative stage, which is the second stage, is really where you can get like structured defense. You get coached to defend a certain way. That's phase B. And phase C, which is the autonomous stage, is basically where somebody pretty much owns it. They can apply it in the game. You can put them in a live situation and they can respond to it and make the right decisions. That's phase C. And overall skill development, coach's job is to help every athlete they coach get as close as they can to being their best self. So this is kind of going to be the formula with which I'm kind of talking about everything in regards to training, spot up shooting, or spot up decision making. Okay, so really important to clarify is a catch and shoot situation is when a player shoots a jump shot without having to dribble or waiting. All right, a spot up situation is a catch and shoot situation. So it's when you catch the ball and that player, upon receiving the ball, has to basically make a decision to catch the ball, to shoot it, to drive it. But it's a very quick decision that's being made once the ball has been caught and everything that goes into that. So it's not just catch and shoot. That's a spot up situation. Okay. So spot up musts. It's every player's job to be proficient in catch and shoot situations. And the spot up is not just a catch and shoot situation. Players have to be able to read the defense and make the right play. And every player always has to be prepared to shoot. Something that I've really seen a lot of, especially whether it's watching college basketball, you're looking at the NBA, you're looking at EuroLeague or any of the leagues in the world, the teams that can put 5 players on the floor that can catch the ball from the perimeter and catch and shoot or make a play to somebody else from those situations, basically are the best teams in basketball now. When you can put multiple players on the floor that can make a lot of high-level decisions and catch and shoot. And if you look at team construction, you look at your Golden State Warriors when they've been at their prime, the Raptors last season. You look at Villanova, you look at any of these other teams, you pretty much see this kind of formula pretty much permeating throughout most of basketball. It's really a reflection of the global basketball player. Okay, so why spend time on spot ups? I think it's the greatest impact on a winning offense. If all 5 players can shoot, pass, dribble, and make decisions off the catch, it is very hard to lose. And you're always in the game, always. The best players have the ball in their hands for a limited amount of time. So, even if your very, very best player has the ball in their hand most of the time, everyone else has to be able to do this. And the most common situation most players will find themselves in. Okay, so player profile, types and analytics. So these are 3 of my trainees. Marcus Page played at UNC, plays for Partizan now. Stan Okoye plays for Gran Canaria now. Justin Jackson. For the most part, they're very different types of players. Marcus is more of a 3-point proficient type of guard. Pretty much flies around, running off of screens, running off of pin downs, handoffs, etc. And his game is predicated on his ability to create space so he can take his shots. And he plays out of spot-up situations a ton, being able to catch the ball and then make a decision. And he's very efficient at it. And I would say from a developmental standpoint, some of the video that I'm going to be showing later, I'm going to show what some of the guards do and what I do from skill development perspective with some of the guards that I work with, trying to tailor make what they do to fit exactly what they do in the game, and conversely, what's done with bigger, more athletic wings. So if you look at a Marcus Page, he's along the same lines of, and this strictly is not comparing him, it's just body type wise, right? It's very similar to something that a Damian Lillard or a Steph Curry or a Shane Larkin, one of those types of players in terms of function would do. They pretty much all do similar things once they catch the ball in a spot-up situation. If you look at players like Stan, Justin, they're all athletic, big wings. So the players they should really be looking at in spot-up situations is, what did Michael Jordan do? What did Kobe do? What is Kawhi Leonard doing? What are other guys who are between 6'5" to 6'8", 6'9" that can catch the ball and put it on the floor, and then really looking at those specific things. And something else that I wanted to talk about really quick before I kind of move on is, I don't think what's talked about a lot or enough about is like, what is the actual diet of shots that a player will take in these situations? And what that means basically is that, if your player takes 12 to 15 shots a game, what do those shots actually look like? Where are those shots actually coming from? And are you actually working on taking those shots at a very, very highly efficient level? And that's really what a lot of this spot up talk, and once we get into a lot of the video and the information, is going to be about, really locking in and honing in on what exactly is basically the majority of the shots that you take, and can you make the right decision out of those situations? Okay, so this is something that I talk about quite a bit, but it's very important to me. Is I think that basically every high level score, pretty much, and especially in this basketball, is what I call a 5-level score. And a 5-level score is somebody who can finish at the rim at a high rate, 5 foot to 10 foot range, which is pretty much floater range, which is, I think, one of the hardest skills to really develop. You really need a lot of great touch, dexterity, and feel from that range to really be proficient at finishing around the basket, and over length and athleticism. Having a really, really solid mid-range game, basically being able to shoot at a high clip from the mid-range, especially to close shot clocks, being able to shoot from 3. And then what I think has become probably the most important shot, especially for a player who has maybe these other 4 things, is gravity, being able to shoot the ball from 2 to 3 feet behind the line. And the reason why this one is so important is because defenses at the end of the day are designed to pretty much guard the 3-point line. So if you have the ability from this situation to basically shoot and to shoot at a very high level. You can play make at a high level from distance, and the defense has to take you into account from before you cross half court, and you pretty much separate yourself. So, and you can like look at a ton of really, really high level scorers. I mean, Curry obviously is probably the most famous one now. Damian Lillard, Luka Doncic, like all these guys, you can pretty much see like how much LeBron James now, right? How much attention that they command once they cross half court, and how much they're able to pretty much manipulate and dictate what goes on for their team on offense. Okay, so training for spot up situations. So one of the things that I do quite a bit is we have something that we call 60 shooters. So I have a bunch of different variations of this, depending obviously on time. But one of the things that I've been doing now with the players that we have here at Get Better Academy here in the Czech Republic is we've been doing something that's called 60 shooters. So I have a guard who I'll show you on video here shortly, is very much a very, very high level catch and shoot player. And he can handle the ball well, but he shoots the ball at a really, really high level. And so what we do is from 5 spots, he's going to catch and shoot the ball twice. He's going to take a 2-dribble pull-up, fan out, which you'll see what that is. 1 dribble fan out in either direction, a 2-dribble fan out, what we call a get in, get out, which some people will call maybe a step back. It depends on your verbiage. And then what I call a step back or step away, really. And the step away is really more so about creating distance laterally to get away from the defense. So again, I'll show video of this, but basically what I do with this is that he has to make 2 of each of these type of shots from each of the 5 spots. So it's 12 makes from each of the 5 spots, and in total it's 60. And for this guard, because he's a 3-point specialist, pretty much the entire thing except for the 2-dribble pull-up is all going to be from behind the 3-point line. Now, there are a bunch of different variations and ways that I do this. There's sometimes where the majority of this stuff is mid-range, or the majority of it is all from 3. But this is really just trying to help the players, one, with their footwork, help them become very, very, very highly proficient in this situation. And also, it's very tough from a conditioning standpoint. And so this obviously is a phase A type of training, okay? Then for the forwards, I have about 6'7", 6'8" wing here that I'm working with. And very athletic, and he's developed the ability to catch and shoot at a high rate. And basically, because he can do that, now he's being closed out on quite a bit. And watching him play in different situations, he has the ability to put the ball on the ground with 1 dribble, get to the rim, and really, really punch the ball, right? Really, really dunk on people and be athletic in doing that. And so obviously, he has to do a lot of other things outside of that. So his series is catch and shoot twice. 2 times he's getting to the rim, going left and right. 1 dribble pull up, a 2 dribble pull up. The one change here is just 1 dribble change of direction, move of his choice or my choice, and a pull up. And then the last thing, and this obviously again is for bigger forwards or even bigger guards, or anyone just that's big, right? I'm bigger than the person that might be guarding them. This is power game, and power game is basically if somebody closes out on you and you have to put the ball on the floor, and you get to a certain spot, just posting them and then being able to score and make a play out of that. And this honestly is something that's become a lot more prevalent for the spot up situations now in basketball. You see a lot of people getting away from post ups, but this is a situation where you can really, really capitalize on it and make it a very efficient situation for yourself or for your players. Also to play make out of as well. Okay. So one moment. Okay, so things to consider. First thing is footwork. I didn't talk about it a ton, but basically, athletes, basketball players have to have the ability to be able to pivot left off the left foot, forward and reverse, right foot, forward and reverse. Those are basically the 4 pivots. And you can easily do a lot of different things. So me just talking about just spot ups is not really getting into a lot of the other things from a jabbing and a footwork standpoint that players can also do that I also spend time doing. And if anybody's interested in these things, if you reach out to me, email me, I'll be glad to share what some of these other things are. But being able to pivot off of both feet in multiple directions and being able to shoot out of those situations without having to dribble the ball is a very, very high skill. One of my close friends, actually, I was talking to recently, Joe Carino, he's playing in he has a long career in Japan and was a childhood friend in the Maryland, D.C. area. We were just talking about this, a lot. And it was just like, we grew up playing one-on-one a ton, playing with limited dribbles or with limited time. And you develop the ability to have, a complete skill set and the ability to really create shots for yourself in these situations. So I think it's something that is because most players now need a lot of or get overcoached. I think there's not a lot of experimentation, but this is something that I think deserves a lot of attention. Something else to consider, especially in regards to off-ball movement, is cutting. And I think with cutting, what I've seen as far as the best translation in regards to cutting is mostly done in some type of structured play. Players really, really recognizing when are the right opportunities to cut, what the defense is doing in regards to giving a lot of attention to a situation, and then how to basically take advantage of it. And then the next thing is sprinting to score. I think this is something that in Europe, I think Europe probably does better than anybody in the world right now is, guys are just flying around in the half court. Forcing the defense to stretch out, spring to get to open spots. Something that I share a lot with our players here is, you are really doing something special if you sprint all over the floor in the half court. You never get the opportunity to shoot, but it's one of the most unselfish things that you can do for your teams. One of the most unselfish things you can do to help, your team be successful. Yes, and the player development pathway. This right here is kind of important for me, but it's just, I've looked at players like, that enter the NBA. NBA is basically one of the leagues I pay a lot of attention to because I have multiple trainees there. But if you look at Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard, when they first entered the NBA, they primarily were asked to defend, catch and shoot, and rebound, and do it at a high level. And the defense and rebound part, I think all those guys did at a high level. But in particular, the spot up part, they all did a very good job or improved at being able to catch and shoot. And as a result of that, their role expanded. But that was like the first part. Like, are you somebody who can competently catch and shoot and gain attention by doing that at a high level? And obviously, once you can do that, okay, can you get to the rim? Can you take 1 and 2 dribble pull-ups? Can you make plays? Once you see 2 bodies, can you do that consistently? And then it's like, okay, all right, now let's put you in pick and roll. Now let's run you off of screens. Now let's post you up. Now let's, do all these other things. And that is how you grow into becoming a really, really a player who has a complete offensive skill set. And I think with all 3 of these players, you pretty much have seen that type of development from the wing position. And it's something that I share constantly with the players that I work with, that you can't skip steps. And as far as development is concerned, you really want to make sure that you master doing the most important things first. And then the last thing, and this is something that I heard from actually one of my trainees, Marcus Page, we were talking the other day, and he was talking about his coach, Andrea of Partizan, and he was just always talking about, he said how they have to move in pairs. You want them to move in pairs. And it's definitely something that I've borrowed from him and from that situation is if you're on the ball and if you're off the ball and you have a partner with you and there's nothing that's going on, you should be setting a flare, setting a pin down, doing something to occupy the defense. Excuse me. And if that's happening constantly, and if you look at, again, the best teams in basketball, this is happening a ton. No one is standing still. There's always something that's going on. So moving pairs is the last thing I wanted to share in regards to things to consider. Okay. And this last piece, excuse me, this last piece is this is basically just a formula by which I basically structure most of the training that I do with the athletes that I work with. And it's strength training, cardio, skill-based development, which is just basically like ball handling, passing, shooting, like just very, very basic fundamental stuff there. Then action-based skill development, which is do the athletes or do the players have the ability to play out of every type of action they'll be involved in: dribble, handoff, screens, pick and roll, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, spot up situations in this case. Okay. And then structured play, in this case, this is, as far as spot ups is concerned, is going to include, again, with the video I'm going to share, what would happen when you have to put the ball on the floor. And, and that basically is something that we'll talk about here shortly. Stretch, film, and then this basically is a formula that I think should be, in total, is probably about 20 hours a week, 5 days out of the week, at minimum, in order to really maximize a player that's very serious and working at a high level. And yes, thank you. And now I'll share the video. Just bear with me while I pull this up. So the first athlete that I'm going to show you, okay. Okay. Can you all see this okay? Okay, hopefully you do. Okay, but this is, yes?
We got the slides showing right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, guys. While Coach is sorting out the video here, we've got all his contact information. We've got email, Twitter, Facebook, even selling offices on there. So definitely encourage you guys to reach out, because the off-ball stuff, I don't think gets enough attention, Coach, especially when it comes to skill development.
No, I don't think so at all. Okay. Okay, what do you see now?
Okay, I think we've got it. Yeah, we've got the video screen. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So this right here is this is again one of the players here with our club. This is Phil Novotny, and this is him working on 60 shooter. And so basically what it is, if you can see this, he's obviously spent time on this, and he's not flying through this, but I just wanted to make sure it was kind of clear what's going on. Is 2 catch and shoot threes. After he gets the threes in, he's
Coach, it looks like we're frozen here on the video.
Okay. How's this?
There we go.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just going to let this play because, he's going to go through several spots. So
okay.
This right here, the last piece that he's doing going left and right, this is the get in and get out. And for players, with a lot of this, in regards to the skill development piece, I don't like to always tell every player how to do every single thing, because I do think there needs to be some room for freedom as far as them to be able to know what works best for their body, and then also what works best for them. So the first 2 shots here are 2 catch and shoots. Okay. Now he's going to take 2 dribble pull-ups going right and left. And he's a player that gets chased off the line a bit, and the 2 dribble pull-ups is 2 dribbles in 4 steps. Now he's going to work on, call a fan out. It's as if somebody's sprinting on him, closing out, and he has to create space. And in situations where he has to create a lot more space, this is 2 dribbles on his fan out in either direction, really trying to get away from the defense so we can knock down these shots. Okay, and this last thing, step back, going left, and step back, going right. Okay, and I'll show this spot one more time. Again, catch and shoot twice. 2 dribble pull-ups going left and right. Fan out in both directions. Okay, and then, oh, I'm sorry, get in and get out. So the get in and get out, it could be, you know, what many people see as that hardened step back or something else, but it usually is, this is when you make physical contact with the player that's guarding you, and you create space and get back behind the 3-point line. And these last ones, these step aways are lateral. It's a big deal to make sure that when you're working with your players, especially on the step backs, and they're not really step backs anymore, not conventionally, right? They're more like lateral. Step away, you want to create space and force the defense to have to jump from side to side to really have to get to the ball. And they're very hard to guard if you do it well. So I think the smaller you are, you might get some stepping back. You have to step back and step away. I think both. But if you have positional size, you just really need to create space laterally, and then you can get it done. So this is the first clip, and this is of Phil Novotny in this situation doing this. The next video that I'd like to share with you is basically of these situations done by players in game situations that are doing this. So some of these are going to include some of my trainees. You know, I just kind of throw them in there so they can see it. Just one moment. Okay, just bear with me 1 second, and I'll have it up.
No worries.
Okay, appreciate it, man. And were you able to see that fairly okay?
Yeah. There wasn't much delay at all, and actually, for me, anyways, it was actually nice to see it over a stream because the footwork was slowed down a bit and the quality was good.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good news then.
I'm actually probably about to steal that whole drill. There's a couple shooters that I work with over here that I could use it for sure.
Hey, man, life is playful, man. So it's all good, man. You know, we got to make each other better. So no worries.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, there we go. So what I'm going to show next is just basically these clips being done in the actual game.
Okay.
So. Okay, you see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the exact same stuff, but basically it all being done in the game. So obviously that's Damian Lillard from gravity range, if you guys can see that. Trae Young, gravity, right? Catch and shoot. He's 2 or 3 steps beyond the line. All right. Steph Curry, right? You know him doing what he does. Catch and shoot. Again, catch and shoot. And then, okay, Marcus, another one of my trainees here. Catch and shoot. And Shane Larkin, not one of my trainees, but catch and shoot. So as you can see, this is at every level of basketball. And now these are the rim finishes when somebody is closing out and these players have a direct straight line drive. And something that we talk about a lot at PGC is chest reads. If you're driving the ball and you don't see chest, it's straight line to the basket. There's nobody in between Steph Curry and the rim there. He's going straight line to the rim. Trae Young, he doesn't see chest, all the way to the basket, straight line. Get there. Dame kind of sees chest, but still able to finish, okay? And this is probably one of my favorite clips here. He just bulls his way to the rim, okay? All right, and then floaters. Now, some of these things were not done in the series, and it's really important with the series that you kind of take freedom in plugging and taking away whatever you want as you kind of work on this stuff with your athletes. But if they get to the point where they're mastering the shots that they take, I think it's big. And so obviously, depending on the player, I may change their ability to get to the basket or do other things. In the case of Phillip or some of the players that I'm working with here, there's some players, if we spend a lot of time on finishing, say, for example, then I may not put that in that series just because I feel like that's something that's being accomplished through another means. So feel free to plug in and change things as you desire as coaches. So these are obviously one dribble pull-ups. This again, Marcus Page, and that really was kind of a handoff situation, but it still is a one dribble pull-up. Okay, Shane Larkin, there with the one dribble pull-up. He's being chased off the line. Okay, two dribble pull-ups. And I think these are big. These two dribble four-step pull-ups are big, especially the close shot clocks. If you look at the time and most of these, you'll see like maybe, they're under 8 seconds, 7 seconds on the shot clock, and somebody's chasing a guy off the line. He has to be able to do this. So this is one double change or one change. So somebody's driving the ball, they have to make two moves. These are also a part of the series as well. This is jab shot, another prevalent one. And then obviously these are now the fan outs. So this is Damian Lillard here using that fan out. He's being basically closed out on very hard. All right. Steph Curry, and you look at the separation he creates with that fan out. Steph again here, creating space. And again, Steph there creating space. So I think the beauty of this stuff for me is that like it's really good to work on this stuff with your athletes and then turn around and show them film of other players, that are basically doing the exact same things in these situations. Now, these are step backs. And if you notice in all of these step backs, the term or the verbiage step back, I really think is a misnomer. All of these step backs are lateral. They're more like step aways. Steph is just creating separation so that he can get his shot off. And usually that is sideways. And now these shots are all get in and get outs, these last ones. And get inside the three-point line and get out. Okay, so now this is the wing. So this is the wing series that we do. This right here is Kenny Isnard right here. Two catch and shoot situations, and then one dribble pull-up situations. Two dribble pull-up right here. Okay. One change. One change. Okay, and then you want to get to the rim. And you can decide however you want to do this as far as the order. But usually what I do is most important thing first is to catch and shoot. And then this is power game. This is power game. So this is being able to drive the ball. I'm just there, applying physical contact, giving a little read, and letting them get some familiarity and experience with the situation. And both Kenny and Phil both have gotten exceptionally better just at doing this over and over. And, we play a lot of small-sided games, and, we play a lot of 3-on-3 and some 5s. And you start to see this stuff really translate because these are the exact situations that they find themselves in. So, again, catch and shoot twice, one dribble pull-up in either direction, two dribble pull-up in either direction. And if you see on the two dribble pull-up again, it's two dribbles and 4 steps. Okay, one change. One change, yep. And power game. And for some of the guys I work with, they might have as much as, I'll make a series where they have an 80 shooter or a 90 shooter or even a 100 shooter, right? But, you know, it's I don't want to go overboard with some of these series because they can be quite exhausting. And sometimes, you know, it takes away the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish if it's just too much extra stuff. We just want to lock in on the stuff they're going to do most of the time, or the things they might be struggling with the most or need to grow with. So again, that's 2 dribble pull up there. And another big point with most of these is footwork. You know, I'm really trying to focus on heel toe footwork. Make sure there's a ton of dorsal flexion, and they're going from basically lunge movement to squat movement. And then nothing that Kenny does here is perfect. We're definitely working very hard on cleaning everything up. But, you know, it's beautiful to see how far he's come and how much he's connecting the dots. Same thing with Phil. So, again, catch and shoot there twice. Now what I did there is as we progress, then I might add a change of direction move on the drive. So there's a lot of freedom in terms of, you know, this format. Okay. And actually, just to add, there's a clip of another one of my trainees, I think who will be on this next video, Dimitri Rivers. He played for Parnu Saddam last season. He played at Mercer. And he's very similar to Kenny size, another 6'7", 6'8" wing. He played for Sopron this last year in Hungary. And basically, this series was something that he pretty much mastered. And you saw a ton of translation, even in the highlights of him and some of the things he's done. But I just started him out with a series that was called 40 Shooter, and it was catch and shoot twice, 1 dribble in either direction, 2 dribble in either direction, and then 1 change direction move and 1 change of direction move into a pull-up. And it's interesting just to see how much that stuff translated. And he'll be on many of the clips that I'll show in this next video. Yeah, and if you watch Kenny on these 1 dribble pull-ups, he really tries to get that toe up so his heel is striking, and all he's doing is landing in that squat and then getting right into that shot. 2 dribbles in 4 steps. And another point of emphasis with this stuff is that if you have positional size and you can operate in tight and confined spaces, like really get to your spots and do it clean, you really can do a lot for yourself. And that's really what I'm trying to get players like Kenny to understand, is just get to your spots. Get to your spots, do it in limited dribbles, be concise, be clean with it, be precise, and a lot of success can follow. Okay, and then at the end here, and I didn't show it from Phil, but these are just some of the reads. They're just playing a little light game where they give each other reads and helping each other work on many of the things that we work on, so that when they get in these games and they get in the same situations, they can make the right decisions. Okay, so now this is a wing version of 60 Shooter. So if you watch, this is Kobe catch and shoot, Mike pump fake situations, and obviously there's going to be a lot more than what we worked on. Kawhi catch and shoot. Okay, power game there with Mike. Okay, this is Dimitri Rivers with Sopron. Okay, power game. He has position size, thinks he can go score on him right there. Okay, and again, these are all situations that we spend time on. Power game again. Pull up over top. This is Stan Okoye. All right, these are the fan outs here. This is Stan with Gran Canaria this last season. Fan outs. Okay. And very quickly, I'm just going to show you all one last thing, and this is going to be just the last thing that Phil did at the end, which I glazed over. But okay. Again, this is him finishing, and this right here is phase B and phase C of some of what I was talking about in regards to the levels of training or the types of training. So this is me giving him reads as a coach. When he gets over there with Kenny, and Kenny's going to be giving him reads defensively, he's doing the same thing. And obviously when we go a little bit more live, that's phase C. And when he plays in the game, that's going to be phase C. So if your players can really connect the dots and put all this stuff together, then they understand and it makes sense. So again, this is Phil, creating space and taking that shot. Step away, and again, step away. And the players will learn a lot about themselves physically when they're doing this. In Phil's case, he, for most righties, it's very difficult for them to do those step backs or step aways going right. It's very difficult. Okay. And then, just obviously with the rest of this is having some fun and being able to experiment. But players learn a lot about their bodies, what they can do, what they can't do, what fits, what doesn't, by means of going through a lot of this. So I think that is it. And at this time, if there are any questions or anything else that you guys would like to talk about, I'm ready to do it.
Great. Well, Coach, first of all, thanks, man. That was great. We've got a couple questions here coming in from social media in different places.
Sure.
The first one that we've got is talking a bit about footwork, and they're asking, do you have a preference when it comes to, before the ball gets to you, before the ball gets to the player, is there a preference on what footwork they use to catch that? So, like a stride 1-2 step or catch on 2, or do you not have a preference? What do you usually tell your guys?
Yeah, I mean, I've more I've been around this. I used to be a big just pro hop guy, catch with 2 feet off the ground, ball in the air, feet in the air, right? But then I've been around a lot of different situations now. Like, I don't know if you remember, I'm from the Maryland, D.C. area, but Roger Mason Jr., he and Klay Thompson do something very similar where they'll catch the ball and they're flat-footed, no jumping at all. And you talk to them, they squeeze their core and they can just shoot from those situations. They practice it. You have players or coaches that teach a lot of 1-2. Personally, what I found is that it all boils down to what you're most efficient at doing and how quickly can you respond to the situation. So, I think, especially with basketball, if you get caught up in absolutes, that's when you're asking for trouble. Well,
I guess a follow-up, that's glad you said that, because I guess a follow-up to that, if I can piggyback off that question, would be, when you're training a guy, do you go strictly off of what they're comfortable with at that time, or do you try to do, a little bit of left-right, a little bit of right-left, and a little bit of catch on 2, just to, I guess, to make sure that they can respond to those game situations without thinking about it?
Yeah, and again, it depends on the situation. Now, if it's a high-level pro that pretty much knows their game and they know how proficient they are in situations and they know what they need to do, then I'm going to allow them to kind of lead the way, and then I'll add my pointers and tips as we go along. If I think they could benefit from it, then obviously I'll push. If it's a young player, like a high school player or a developing player, for me personally, I usually start off with, pro hop. They need to be able to catch with both feet off the ground. If you call it airborne receiver, like they got to have both feet off the ground off the catch, and then because it gives you the most options. And collectively, I've pretty much seen the best stuff. But at the same time, like if a player has had injuries, right, stuff you have to take into account. And for me, it's like I don't think people from that perspective really understand like most of the stuff, like players that develop a lot of this stuff just innately and just learning and experimenting themselves. They kind of discovered this stuff based off whatever worked best for their bodies or what worked best with them just experimenting when they were playing. And, if I'm like Ray Allen, for example, if he runs off of a screen when he was running, right, he would always 1-2. If he ran left, it was always some type of airborne receiver or pro hop. And the reason for it was because he had ankle surgery on his right ankle. Yeah. So it's like,
So I guess we kind of have a consensus that, it depends on the player really. And if somebody's doing something well and somebody, if they shoot it at a high clip with their way of doing it, that you can't, nobody's really going to argue with Klay, I suppose. And then nobody's going to argue with Ray Allen having it 2 different ways. So, we've got a couple other questions here, Coach. We've got what's the footwork rhythm on your 4-step 2-dribble pull-up? So is that.
That's actually a really interesting question, because especially being in Europe, you have trouble with the open pivots here, and then they do a lot of the slap downs. It's just something that's kind of done. But the rhythm for the most part, if you do catch here and it is a legitimate, 2 feet at the same time, pro hop, airborne receiver type thing where you're just catching and planting your feet. If you're going right, it is left, right, and the dribble has to coincide with the 1-2. So if I'm dribbling, I'm stepping left, right, and that has to be timed and happen at the same time. If that answers your question.
I guess the easy way to say that would be if you're operating off, which is in Europe, it's pretty much the norm anyways, but it's coming off of a cross step most of the time then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're coming off of that situation, let's say, for example, you want to go opposite, then that obviously is some type of slap down because you can't rip and dribble because it's going to be an open pivot and that's travel. And that obviously would be a little different. Yeah.
Another one we've got here. Coach, could you please tell how you teach floaters? Like is a ball spin needed or no follow through footwork? So I guess what they're saying is that do you teach that more? Do you teach that with a backspin on the shot or just more of a push? And then also with the footwork, I guess with what they're asking, I assume we're talking about 1 foot as opposed to 2, or like a quick pro hop as opposed to a 1-2.
Yeah, I teach everything. So no, it's just a great question. It's like Justin Jackson is one of my trainees. Like when he was at UNC, we were preparing him for the draft and everything, and they made their run to the tournament. We spent a lot of time on giving him variations to his floater because he really has a great float game. Like, he gets up there but it's interesting with his right hand, he's pretty much doing this the majority of the time. With his left, it's open hand. It's all open hand. And so, it's like we spend time doing both, right? With both hands, right? But the reality is that like, and this is just for me to give some clarity. I know you're asking for detail, so I'll be more clear. If it's a runner type situation, which runners and floaters I think kind of go in the same category. And a runner usually is something that's full speed in one direction, right? I'm full speed. I don't have a chest read. I can pretty much go full speed, but I'm usually going away from the basket in one direction or another, right? Yeah. Usually, to me, that's going to be some type of wrist turn. I'm going to get up to the peak of my jump and wrist turn. But if it's somebody who has a great positional size or is a great athlete, right? So maybe a guy like Justin, or even like if you remember Derrick Rose's floater, he was literally jumping up to the level of the rim. Yeah. And at the peak of his jump, he would do this. Right. And it was just like, all right, none of you can get up here to get to the ball. So that's going to be my, my floater. And in all practicality, it really was like a jump hook. Yeah. So that's one piece. So when you identify your players from that perspective, you're looking at, all right, if you get to the peak of your jump, right, and you're higher than everyone else, then okay, that's when that applies, right? Then from the other standpoint, if you look at somebody like Tony Parker has all open hand. Yeah. And the reason for it is because he's not playing up there that high in the sky.
No, it's got to get up
he has to get the ball up there, exactly, especially to deal with positional size. And from me personally, from a teaching standpoint, the typical athlete that is not a Derrick Rose or is not 6'9" like Justin and can get that high in the air is probably going to have something that's more akin to what Tony Parker is doing.
So more you'd say more with most, if we're talking most youth players that are not world-class athletes and most higher level guys even that aren't world-class athletes that are, above the rim, it's going to be more of a push than a follow through. Okay.
2 feet in a push. Then the other one, which is the one-legged one, which I think is the one that probably should be used the most outside of that one, is more of that. It's like the hanger. So Steve Nash and Chris Paul both do that quite a bit. Raymond Felt, another one of my trainees, he this is something we added to his game years ago. And it was being able to jump off of one leg, 2 hands on the ball, and basically shoot a conventional jump shot while hanging on one leg. Yeah. This is if I'm driving left and I'm right-handed, but I don't have the real ability to finish with the left, then you'll see some type of hanger, where I'm hanging on one leg in the air and then finishing with that type of situation. And it's kind of a floater,
Yeah, one of those in between type shots.
Yeah. Yeah. But is it, you have to have it in your bag. You have to have it.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that to be honest, it's one of those things. I don't know if people were saying this even 15 years ago, but now it's something that if you're going to be a complete player, you have to have that or you're too easy to guard.
Yep.
So another question we've got here, and I think I might know what you're going to say, but we'll see. Who would you consider to be? I mean, I can think of quite a few in both leagues, but if we're talking just NBA, who do you think the best off-ball guy is as far as being prepared and having, I guess having everything in his bag, so to speak, off the ball for when it does get to him?
It's interesting, because it's I think the obvious one everyone would say would probably be Steph, or Dame. I think both of them are kind of elite. They're different, but they're similar, very similar, but they're different. But this one might surprise you. I really think it's Kawhi.
Man, it's like people don't think about that because he does so many other things. But it's like when he catches it, man. I think the decision making is almost flawless. Like very rarely is he putting the ball down or making pulling a shot that's not the right shot.
The other thing too is like I think everyone forgets how he started.
Yeah.
It's like Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili were the primaries. His job was to kill off the spot ups.
Yeah. And I was just about to say our San Antonio audience hasn't forgotten that, but most everybody else has.
Sorry, I forgot you're in San Antonio. But I mean, basically, yeah. I mean, it's just like he caught the ball. He was eating you up on second side action. So they were on pick and roll, they run pin downs, they run handoff, they run whatever they're running on one side of the floor.
Yeah.
And you have to tilt the floor. You have to, compensate for these guys that are working on one side of the floor. The ball gets reversed, and then it's over. Like if you close out hard, he's going to dunk on you. If you don't close out properly, he's dropping a three in your face.
Yeah.
And I mean, he said you go on and on. There was no answer, and so it's like after a while, it's like, well, we probably should run more plays for this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
like I said, he's a problem, and that's normally when people talk about decision making, it's linked to passing a lot of the time. But I think with the shots that he takes, I mean, very rarely, nobody's shooting 100%, but very rarely is it the wrong decision from him.
And one caveat: if healthy, it's Kevin Durant.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
If healthy, it's Kevin Durant. I think Kawhi is exceptional. He's exceptional.
Another question we've got from an attendee here is what type of shot do you prefer more? Kind of a fluid one motion shot or a two motion shot, J.R. Smith. And I guess on jumping on top of that, I would say if you have a guy that shoots a high clip that's got kind of a one of those like a two motion jumper, what age do you cut that off at, or at what level would you try to intervene in that at all, or you just try to work on that? So which would you prefer, I
guess? For me personally, I think, and again, this goes back to kind of what I was talking about, is like, if you let a bunch of kids go to the park and play, right, with no coaching or no interaction, you'll be surprised how much they develop and how much they learn just by having to deal with what happens when somebody guards you. If you don't have a bunch of positional size or athleticism, you're probably going to shoot a one motion kind of shot because that's the only way you're going to get your shot off is when you're throwing back at you. And you quickly and will develop that. Like human mind is brilliant. Like the human mind. I mean, it's just
an evolution thing without even having to say it.
Yeah, and so it's like I think sometimes like and I love skill development. I love to get in there and tinker, and I love to mess with things. But it's an old quote: the game is overcoached and undertaught.
Yeah.
Are we preparing our players to think autonomously and to be able to think for themselves? Like can they organically figure some of this stuff out for themselves? Now, like me personally, I always shot like a J.R. Smith. I'm an athlete. Right? Like I jump on everything that I do. I'm trying to shoot over you. I'm trying to do everything over you. Right? So I would never do something that's somewhat akin to what Steph does, So it's like, I think sometimes what people get in trouble with is like, you try to make somebody something that they don't naturally do. And then they never become really proficient at anything because the player themselves gets confused. Yeah. But if they understand, okay, this is how I function, this is why I function this way, this is what works for me, and this is why. I think giving them the why behind a lot of this stuff is great. But personally, I don't think tinkering too much with that is helpful.
Well, and I think there's kind of a theme. We've kind of developed a theme here, the same as with the footwork and stuff. It's that with a one motion jumper and a two motion jumper, as long as the mechanics are correct, it's not so much of a preference of one over the other as much as it is taking what it's naturally good at and building on that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, every coach is not going to be upset if the ball goes in.
Yeah.
At least I'm not.
There's not much to coach there.
No, I'm not going to be upset if the ball goes in. So it's like, why am I going to, overcoach and micromanage? Like, yes, coaches are brilliant. I think, we're all smart and, we want to be able to have our hands on this stuff, but it's really important to,
The last question we've got here, Coach, is, and this is obviously geared a bit more towards the States, but I mean, it could be applied anywhere. Do you think that ISO ball culture has had an adverse effect on how players move off the ball or move and prepare for the ball, or do you think it's had an adverse effect? Do you think it's helped? What do you think about that?
It's so interesting because and I would love your opinion on this too, but I'm in Europe, right? And ISO ball is not here really.
No.
But it's like, I see the value of it because at the end of the day, every EuroLeague team has an American guard who closes the shot clock because he can play one-on-one.
Well, and he's
usually it doesn't exist here. Yeah, because it doesn't exist here. It's the reason why imports in Europe are so important.
Yeah. Now,
in America, they need a lot more Europeans because they need players who don't have to dance and do all this stuff. But so the reality is like, and I talk about this all the time, you want to have a complete skill set. You want to be a player who can do it all. You want to be a player who can catch and shoot and who can make good decisions out of spot situations. And somebody who, if I'm one-on-one with somebody I know I can beat, I can make a quick, decisive decision and punish the person that I'm playing one-on-one.
Yeah.
And, it's just, it's very interesting.
Well, and that's to me, man, I think my opinion is I think if you're trying to bridge the gap between the two, it's like you would like to have complete players that can play off the ball, but that if that clock gets, you don't have to rely just on one guy to improvise and create.
Yeah.
And ideally you'd have, at least 3 or 4 guys in a lineup that can do that for you. But then in America, I guess it's like, especially with youth players and sometimes even with really talented ones, it's like if they have the ball in their hands, look out. But if they don't have the ball in their hands, they might be actually hurting you because they don't know how to space, or they don't know how to catch and shoot very efficiently because they've only dedicated their time to scoring. So I guess again, the answer is somewhere in the middle, I think.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And again, just working with all those kids in America that I worked with, for all these years, like 90% of what I was trying to teach them to do was, there's going to come a time when you're not going to be the best player on the floor and you have to be able to play without the ball in your hands. At some point it'll happen, and I told them that, LeBron and Giannis haven't walked in my gym yet. So you need to figure this out, like, and be great at it. And then if you do that, like, you'll play for a long time, if you have these other skills.
Yeah, and it's just, I think all too often, and I mean, NBA is a star-based league, but I think people are looking at that and saying, obviously their eyes are on the superstars when 90% of the league are guys that are filling a role, and they're the best in the world at filling roles and doing the things off the ball. And But Coach, man, this has been awesome. We really appreciate you taking the time, and videos were great. Presentation was great. I really think our audience, I think it'd be impossible for them not to take some stuff away from this. So we really appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you. And if anybody wants any of this information, I'll be putting up a lot of those videos on my YouTube channel some point this evening or tomorrow. And if you want the presentation, I'll be glad to share it. And a lot of the analytics that I wanted to share, I didn't get a chance to share it, but I'll send that, as well.
One last thing, Coach, is mid-range dead?
No, not at all. I mean, it's like I love the question, but it's just like, if you look at the best teams in basketball, you look at the best teams in basketball,
Yeah.
and they shoot mid-range shots. And I think, a lot of us are not paying attention to, like, okay, they have the most resources in regards to analytics and all this other stuff. So why are they shooting mid-range shots? Obviously, they know something that we probably don't, or we're not talking about.
Because they play basketball.
Yeah. So if you get chased off the line, or it's, late in the shot clock or the fourth quarter, like, you're going to have to make those shots. And this is my last thing, but every team needs at least one bad shot maker. You need one, somebody who can make and take bad shots. And if you don't have that, you look at the Bucks. What happened when the Raptors said, Giannis, you're not getting in the paint anymore? What happened? And they chased everybody off the three-point line. They couldn't score. Then they had the Raptors. What happened when back in the day, you talk about the Orlando Magic, total 3-and-key team, completely built to score that way. Dwight Howard was at his peak, and you had Jameer Nelson, and that whole roster. They couldn't score.
No, they were either all inside or all outside.
Yep. Yeah. And so, anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Coach, man, we appreciate it. Stay safe out there, and we look forward to staying connected with you.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah.